Guess who's back on YouTube? Truth Seekers. It's me, Bruce McDonald. Completely devoid of medical misinformation. I learned my lesson. They taught me good. It was like being drawn and quartered. It was like being stretched out on the rack. And I learned my lesson good. I will not do that again. I will be continuing to put these up on, I guess what we would call Rumble. Yeah, I will continue to broadcast to Rumble, so don't worry about that, folks. And I like the Rumble platform, but I got to admit, YouTube is easier to work with. I don't know. It's just a little bit better in a lot of ways. That's all I can say. It just is. And tonight we're just going to have a conversation with Chris, and we're going to go wherever the conversation takes us, and that's all there is to it. Okay? So, Chris, how are you, man? Chris France from Seaside, England. We'll just say I don't want to actually name your location because you could have
Yeah, undisclosed location on the southwest coast. Yes.
southwest coast of the Britain, the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most people can find me if they know where to look. I stick out like a sore thumb when I'm living over here because I'm kind of clothes I wear and the way I talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it's
yeah. I bet you there's not too many American accents there, right?
I met one. It's 5.5 years. So,
Really?
yeah.
And so what do people make of an American accent? Like, what do they say to you?
Most of the time they want to know where I grew up. Like, so I tell them Colorado, California, Texas, and then I tell them, but I'm not. I'm a UK citizen. I'm from Scotland. And then that kind of confuses them and takes them to the next obvious question would be, well, how'd that happen? So then I get to go into my elevator pitch for a few minutes, and then I've probably done that a couple hundred times since I've been here, which is it's good in one way, but it also it feels alien to me, kind of thing. That people would notice me and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not used to being noticed by regular people. I used to get noticed by a lot of police, narcotics officers, things like that when I was younger. So, but now almost everybody knows me almost in town, which is it's pretty cool. I can go in every shop and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So
It's this,
it's very comfortable for me.
well, it's obviously the same thing where I live. I'm a very Jeez Louise. I'm a very unique figure where I live. There's just
Yeah.
there's no foreigners in this part of Costa Rica, and no non-Costa. Well, I can't say that because there's a lot of Nicaraguans because Nicaraguans do all the hard work in Costa Rica, right? Like all the work nobody else wants to do. So it's mainly Nicaraguans at banana plantations, pineapple plantations, all of that sort of stuff, right? And there's a lot of that there. Have you ever seen like a banana plantation?
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
Well,
It's very dense.
you can't really understand how big they are until you're driving past one on a little paved country road, 2-lane country road, and you're going you're
Go
going
on
you're
forever.
you're going 80 kilometers an hour, and you're on the road for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're still beside the banana
So,
plantation. And when you go to a little higher spot on the road, so you can look over the plantation, it's like looking at the sea, like the banana leaf vista doesn't end; it just goes forever. I mean, we're talking. I mean, this 10 by 10 would be 100 square kilometers. I don't know. And
Yeah.
you might be looking at 300 or 400 square kilometers of bananas, and it takes a staff of hundreds to manage it, right? And it's really brutal work, and a lot of them end up getting cancer because of all the pesticides they use on the bananas that are for commercial sale. But
Wow.
when people grow an acre or a hectare, 2.6 acres of bananas for themselves, like we do up on the mountain, there's no pesticide used, right?
Right.
Because if you lose some bananas, you lose some bananas. That's all there is to it, right? And but in the commercial business, you can't lose money, right? You got to hit every quarter, so they don't take any risks. And they have crop dusting planes, and they actually have crop dusting helicopters on
Wow.
the banana plantations. Pineapples, you don't need to do too much. You don't need to fumigate. You don't need Nothing really bothers a pineapple. The insects can't get through that skin. And there's something about a pineapple that it's like the toad of the fruit world. No,
Huh.
nothing
Yeah.
fucks with a pineapple, right? I don't think there's a whole, like, if you tried to offer a dog or a cat a piece of pineapple, they wouldn't go near it. If you
Yeah.
if you
Wonder what it was.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually cut it open and cut clean parts of pineapple and leave them out, like the high sugar content in them will draw the ants out and everything. But yeah,
Yeah, it's this last few days on the internet with the goings on about the second assassination was pretty incredible to see the division. It's like somebody rings a division bell and really, really loud once that happened. One side saying, the most awful things, and the other side saying, "Thank God he didn't get killed." And then you go back and you look at this guy that was arrested for the process of trying to kill the president,
yeah,
and he's got this social history on his social media as being some kind of radical weirdo, trying to recruit people in Ukraine for the army.
I saw that too.
All kinds of weird stuff. So my conspiracy theory needle, as far as there being a planned. He was not a lone wolf type of guy, right? There were people around him, people that kind of guided him, people kind of directed him, gave him the straight shot, right?
Yeah,
I believe that could be quite the possibility, and I even think that the other guy could probably have been compromised like that as well.
yeah, man. I
But there is
honestly, like,
an app.
I will be the first to admit I have no clue what's going on. I mean, I don't mind listening
Yeah,
to you theorize about it. In fact, it's quite amusing, but I think we all have to take a moment and just admit that we don't have a clue what's going on here. I mean, we can talk till the cows come home. I will never ever sort of back away from like what I would call. I think the biggest takeaway from all this is like the reaction of the left, and like
right,
they don't seem to care, man. You know what I mean? Like they don't,
right.
and they're not pulling any punches, and they're actually creating danger for the guy. I mean, I addressed this in yesterday's podcast about the irony of it all. We're going to become
Yeah.
dictators and seize power because we're so afraid this guy might be a dictator and seize power. So we're gonna
Yep.
we're gonna beat him to the punch to save you from his dictatorial tendencies. We're gonna become dictators. Like it's and you know that based on the division between the left and the right in the United States, if it ever came to any kind of civil conflict, I mean, the right would just destroy them, right?
Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
and it's kind of amusing for me to watch all these people going around and pretending they're tough guys and everything, and you know, I oh baby, come on, you know, Walmart mercenaries, and and the right's being extremely nonviolent, and the right is all the veterans, all the special forces, all the snipers, all the people who could,
all the legal gun owners.
all the legal gun owners, yeah. But I,
Uh-huh.
I don't, I honestly do not understand how somebody could look at 2024 and have the positions that this guy had. Like across the board, he's wrong. Okay? Like across, like Ukraine, everything. Like, you know, I mean, clearly when you look at the cycle of cause and effect, we're responsible for the Ukrainian conflict. And I think that may very well just be a coordinated effort to ethnically depopulate Ukraine, though, right? So,
Make room.
yeah, make room, something like that. Yeah, we got a good crowd in the good crowd. Hey, if somebody wants to call in, it's Seen That Tinker One on Skype, and I can rearrange the screen and bring you in on camera. We got this all figured out now, so there's no real worries about anything. So come on in if you want to come in. You can, if you just want to come in on your voice and you don't have Skype, call 864-810-1039. I would love to hear from some of you and find out what it is that I'm doing right here on the Talamanca Review, why you like it and why you're watching it, and what I'm giving you that no other podcast is giving you. Yeah, I'm curious. My numbers are really good. Like I have 500 solid listeners a day between the video distribution like Rumble and YouTube, and then the audio distribution from Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all of the audio platforms. And then I've got another like 120 listeners subscribe to me on Substack.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, all in, I'm looking at 400 or 500 listeners a day, which is not big compared to some of the podcasts out there now. But I mean, it's pretty fascinating to me that I can find 500 people who want to hear what I say, like 7 days,
Well, you have
7 days a
you
week.
have high value content.
Well, that's not for me to say. I'd sound like an egomaniac if I said it, but thank you, Chris. You know, I mean, I'm just doing what I do here, and some of the stuff I know is really unique, like the Future Revealed podcast. So the podcasts I do that I enjoy the most are never what the listeners enjoy the most. Okay? And you hear this from theater people too, people who've worked on Broadway and the Royal Shakespeare Company. When they walk off the stage one night and go, "Oh my God, I nailed that! That's the best rendition of Macbeth I've ever done in 6 weeks, and all the time we've been doing this run of Macbeth." And then you talk to the crowd afterwards, people who saw it, and they were, "Yeah, it was okay." And then you go up on stage one night and you go, "Oh, that was pretty mediocre," and everybody says that was amazing, right? So that's kind of like when everybody,
Yeah.
when Joshua wrote that, you know, comment about Spring Buds 2, like, this is just a magical pot. I don't know what he's talking about. So when I look at my work, I think the last 4 or 5 I've done have just been, you know, bang on. But especially the Future Revealed, you know, where I explain what's going on with the temple and everything, and why I think that's got to be tied off or cauterized, and how it connects to the let's say the astral imbalance in the world right now. I thought that was like high-end content, but I think like there's not many people who can really understand it.
I don't think so either. You know, it's like having an ability to see something, right? It's blatantly in front of you, but you can't tell what it is, right? It's like you're looking straight at it and you don't see what it really is. You might hear something, but you don't really understand what's being said. People's ability to pay attention to articulate feelings and emotions, all those kind of things that we were supposedly taught in school. They don't seem to be present in many people. That they just blurt out whatever they ever, just the garbage that they spit out of their mouths, and it's total trash. And then they say that the other side's talking trash.
Yeah.
So while they talk trash, they say the other side needs to shut up and take it easy. That's why they're going after him, because he's such a rude son of a bitch. Of course, people are going to want to kill him. Look at what he says, right? And that's the lefties saying that part. So for us that don't even, I have no interest in the right or the left. The only interest I have is where the United States goes, so goes the world, right? If the democracy if the Republic of the United States were not to be a democracy any longer and turn into something different, so would the rest of the world. The Western culture would then just, like a domino effect, fall one by one by one by one. America is the target, right? Because they've done what they've done. They've done what they've done over here to the EU and to the British United Kingdom, and now it's time to turn the cards over on the table and see who's going to be the all-out winner. And
I see people now on university campuses just asking the question, who you voting for? And all these young people, all these Gen Zers are saying Trump, 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 Trump.
Yep.
Right? I just cannot imagine any scenario at this point where Kamala Harris wins. And I don't even know if she's going to even, I don't think she can even get enough votes to steal the election, right? So I don't know what they're going to do, man. I don't know what they're going to do.
Too big to rig. That's what Trump says. Too big to rig. That's where it brings me to that next level of concern, which was the heightened strikes inside of Russia. We had one. There was one last night in Russia that was huge. It was 5 miles wide of a mushroom cloud. Boom. And
yeah,
it could only have been NATO weapons that do that, right? Ukraine didn't have those types of weapons.
And there's no need. There's no need to be doing that now. I mean, we're what is it now? September 18th. We are 12 till 30. I mean, we're like 5-6 weeks away from the election.
Sure.
Why not just why not just chill things out? Tell Ukraine to chill out, just hold the line, whatever they're doing, and so on and so forth. But I don't know.
I kind of think they might want to kick it off, right? They might want to kick off World War III before the election, so they can get the Congressional War Powers Act through Congress and give whoever is the president, the power. And that's when you'll start to see the children of the United States going to war, the 18, 19, 20, 21, the young kids. And imagine that,
it's hard.
That's a possibility.
It's very hard.
And it's a very strong possibility. I live over here. The tension of it in the political sense over here is a little bit different than it is in America, because we are right in the target zone, right? We're 2 minutes away from Russian missiles. Once they leave and they're heading to England, it takes them 2-3 minutes to get here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like traveling at like Mach 7 or something like that. 17.
Yeah, and Russia said if this happens, then we're at war with NATO, right? They said it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the whole thing seems like an inside job. It's the first person I heard say it out loud was a podcaster I listened to. Not many people know this guy, but he's he's kind of a brilliant podcaster, and he's been doing a podcast since 2003 before it was popular. He goes by the handle of Zeph Daniel, and you can find him on I think he's just on Substack now, but he's got like a huge archive on Spreaker. He's a diehard Jesus guy, but what separates him from other Christians is he was raised in a purely satanic family. His grandfather was the head mason in Hollywood, basically ran L.A. in the 50s, and
Wow.
his brother was sacrificed basically, and they couldn't break him, so they threw him in an institution for like 14 years. What they threw him in when he was 14, he got out at 28 or 30, and just rebuilt himself. And he has such an acute understanding of how the other side operates, and his ability to predict, because he was raised by them, right? And his ability to predict what they're going to do is uncanny. He said a year ago, he said this isn't going to stop. The next step is they're going to try to assassinate Trump. And even me,
No.
I thought he was being a little paranoid and a little ridiculous back then, but no, he's
That's full on. You know.
yeah, and I
They're
can't,
they're going at it full on.
yeah,
And it's not what they're going to do. It's how much can they destroy before the election, right? How much more chaos can they create? How much more distraction can they take away from the real issues of the United States, which are some real serious issues like the southern border,
Yeah.
drug cartels, the human trafficking, the 325,000 children that went missing,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk to people, like people on the left, they can't get this through their head. So
I'll make my coffee.
okay, I was watching a Piers Morgan Uncensored show today on YouTube, and he had this incredible panel. He had Candace Owens. I forget how to pronounce the guy's name. Cern Yernik or something. The guy from the Young Turks, and Eric Prince, and then of course Piers Morgan. The four of them. And this guy from the Young Turks, like everything you say to this guy, he's like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. So when the conservatives on the panel called him on not advocating an end to violence on the left, his retort to that was, how Trump joked about, Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, almost getting killed by a hammer. And then Candace Owens and Eric Prince said, well, that's not really quite the same situation. That seemed to be some kind of gay sex thing. And CERN is just like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm on a panel where people are still peddling that conspiracy theory. Well, what were they doing in the bedroom in their underwear? I mean, like, they just... I don't know. It's just everything is just so crazy now, man. Just so crazy, and I don't think it's going to get any saner anytime soon, right? So,
I think it's beyond repair. My personal feeling is, for me, it's just entertainment until the time I go on to the next rendition. So, because as an individual, I can't really affect any outcome or anything that might be happening out there. All I can do is sit by and watch.
yeah,
Now, you have to go to a community level in order to create organizations or chapters or some kind of watch where you have strength in numbers, right? Neighborhoods can cordon off themselves and protect themselves against intruders. Remember the guardian angels back in New York City.
yeah,
You didn't want those guys walking up on you,
no,
because they would kick your ass, right?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of mentality that the United States, the youth in the United States, I think, have lost. Right? They've some kind of taking pride in God and country. Right? That kind of thing.
Well, there.
I remember. I remember was a kid watching a marching band playing Philip Sousa's one of his songs. Philip K. Sousa was a composer in the 1800s, I think, the war.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, marching bands. I remember watching these marching bands and being, even though I knew I was from Scotland, I was proud that I was standing there in a community of people that enjoyed the same thing that I was enjoying. They were just enjoying their freedom, enjoying their life, and celebrating it. And you don't see that anymore in America. You just don't. It's Beaver Cleaver died long ago. There's no more happy days. Right? The Partridge Family. The Partridge Family. They flew away years ago.
Well, I mean, life's what you make it, right? I mean, you can still find happiness in the world, and you keep believing, Guy. It's hard to do a podcast. You keep believing. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's still the possibility to have a happy life. But what I want to get on to is, what I would call the deliberate and absolutely the deliberate attack upon and destruction of the United States, which seems to be a highly organized plan with many people in the U.S. government participating in it. And I cannot believe these leftists can't see it. Like, how could all these things be accidentally going wrong? Food supply, all of these incredible miscalculations in military tactics and provocation, which is like what they're doing. And again, going back, I didn't finish my thought, going back to this podcaster, Zeph Daniel, he said a year ago, I mean, right at the beginning of the Ukrainian conflict, he said, look, I'm going to tell you what the goal is here. Biden is going to provoke Russia to nuke the United States because they'd rather scarify the whole country than face justice, and they know justice is coming.
Right.
That's how insane these people are, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable, and that they can still fool people. This is what, and look, people think when I talk like this, I'm a MAGA guy or something. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean,
common sense. You're a common sense guy.
Yeah, I mean, just try to stay alive is the goal, right? Try to stay alive. If you can do that, then every other decision after that is secondary, right? But the number one goal right now is to just try and stay alive and not get killed and try to keep your countrymen alive. And I don't know why. There's something about leftists, and the thing about the left is they're usually secular. So they're not fighting for any higher spiritual ideals. They're usually secular. But it's a strange irony of the left that they're much more prone to martyrdom. I think it's just like I could swear it sometimes, Chris, that this is just like thinly veiled suicidal intentions. Right? Like very, very depressed people and very, very bothered people. But they grow in a society. They grow. And you can have certain points in the life cycle of a society where you may be up around 30, 40, 50% of the population that really deep down, if we had the instrumentation to measure it, they don't want to live and they're suicidal. But they don't admit that to themselves, and they transport it over to politics and activism, but at the core of it is this intense death wish. You definitely saw it with the Bolsheviks, definitely saw it with Mao's Youth Guard, definitely saw it with Pol Pot in Cambodia. I mean, it just goes, definitely see it with Kim Jong-un. right? And it just goes on and on and on and on. Amazing.
Right. And it's, you know, if we go back and we take a look at a little bit of the history of the United States and its universities and what happened in the universities since the 50s, maybe even a little earlier than that,
Yeah.
but definitely through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, these universities were transformed from being nationalist, patriotic, and American to becoming this smorgasbord of basket weaving underwater classes
Yeah.
and all these different types of things that they say would get you through school. And you know, it was like a trap, right?
Yeah.
You know, this college thing was a trap, whereas you go into college and what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go out and meet up with a bunch of people and party your ass off. And every one of them. So you know that 10 or 20% of those people that start off that way are going to stay that way, right? So 20% of the population of all the people that go to college just end up flunking out, right? And the rest of them might stay in and they end up with a piece of a document that they can hang on their wall and call themselves, you know, a graduate. But they can't turn that graduate degree into any kind of value in their real life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas people like you and me who never went, well, you did, but you know, I started working when I was pretty young, and I learned that there was, even when people said there wasn't any jobs, I went out and found jobs. And most of my life, I had 100% batting average when I went out for job interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of different jobs. But it's like today, it seems as if 72% or, you know, 70-ish% of the youth that can go or qualify to go into the military in the United States are not able to pass the rather easy entry exams to get into the military. Imagine those people running the government in 40 years, right? That's what you're going to end up with. All the good people that have their life together, they don't want anything to do with any of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like a psychotic world where when you turn on the telly and you watch it, it's a whole different, for some people it's an entire different universe than the universe they're living, right? Where I live in a pretty nice place, and I like it like that. To me, where I come from, I consider this to be kind of like heaven, right? Because I've got everything I want. I do whatever I want when I want to do it, and you know, I'm free. But most of all, I'm happy. But if you go around and ask people in America if they're free or happy, you won't get a solid answer from very many of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, I kind of feel sorry for what's going to be happening to them. It's going to get very, very ugly. It's not going to be nice. And either way it goes, Harris or Trump, either way it's going to explode, right?
Yeah. I don't know what form that will take, though, but I think the crackdown will be swift. The one thing I'm fairly certain of is that Trump has won over the police. And this doesn't mean federal agencies like Department of Homeland Security or Secret Service or FBI, but state, county, and municipal police. Those guys just love Trump, right? And he's going to green light them, you know. So there's, you know, and really a lot of, when you go back and you look at all the rioting in his first term from 2016 to 2020, and I mean, there's been a brilliant book written. I forget the author's name. It's a woman. She wrote a book on on the George Floyd case, and I mean, oh my God, I mean, it's just unbelievable what's under the hood there. That is not at all what we were told it was. And I mean,
Correct.
that sparked so many riots and everything. And so, there's a team behind all of this. I think it's Obama. I think,
I do too.
as Tucker Carlson said on his podcast, there's something really, these are not his words, but I don't think that I'm twisting his words in my paraphrasing. There's something really creepy about Obama. And one of the benefits you get from watching podcasts where people are just talking off the top of their head, for me it's always these very little details that tell me something, okay? Like in the history of the United States, there hasn't been a single president who, the moment his term was up, he didn't get the hell out of Washington and go back to where he's from. Jimmy Carter,
Right.
back to Georgia. George W. Bush, back to Texas. Um,
Yep.
People go back to where they're from. The Kennedys go back to Massachusetts. You know, what does Obama do? He buys a residence in Washington. Like, why do no why that's something I'd like to see somebody ask him in an interview. Like, did 8 years of being the president not just make you want to leave Washington? Like, why would you buy a personal residence there? He's got the residence in
You-
Martha's Vineyard, but there's some and Tucker says stuff like that to say something without saying it, so you can kind of put it together yourself.
I think Obama was once asked a question. His reply was, it was about having a third term. And he said, yeah, I'd love to if I could just put an earpiece in somebody and tell them what to say. Right. And
Yeah.
it's like, and if you go back even to the Clinton administration and a little bit before that, you'll see this organizational deep state things start to take shape, right?
Yeah,
And then in the big picture, we had the 9/11 event, and then it just from that point on, once they signed into law what the Patriot Act is, then it was all over. Then it gave the power to those who wanted it, and the ones that abuse it today. They do more spying on the American citizens than they do on anyone else.
yeah,
It's incredible what they do over, they got spy balloons and RC-135 reconnaissance aircraft, and they can track a soccer ball from 300 miles away. You know, they intercept the thing called I think it's called Stingray, where they can circle and they intercept. They act like a cell tower,
yeah,
and they receive all the transmissions from all the cell information coming up to them. They've got one that can intercept data and actually implant data in it and then send it on its way to where it's supposed to be going.
yeah,
So it has additional data in it. That's one of the tools that they can use. They're getting pretty smart. I mean, look at all the new all the little pagers blowing up with Hezbollah and the walkie. On day one, it was the pagers. On day two, it was the walkie-talkies, right? And that takes some pretty good logistical spyware type of organization to pull that kind of thing off.
yeah,
And it's just all the governments around the world. I don't think there's one that I could probably give a nod to and say, yeah, they're okay. I mean, I do believe in what El Salvador is doing is fantastic, and I applaud everything that they've done to make their country better. Americans are moving to El Salvador now to get away from America. My sister's going to get her UK citizenship and a passport for her and her husband, and they're going to move here after they retire.
really,
Get out of Austin, Texas, yeah. And so, because my sister, even though she was born in America, she also qualifies as a UK citizen, as my mother was a UK citizen. Right. And so, yeah, she can come over here and retire and even get benefits.
But like, I don't mean to be insensitive or offensive, but is the UK any better than the United States at this point?
For a guy like me, yeah, it is a lot better for me. For the normal person,
Yeah.
it's about the same. It's about the same. The working guy, he struggles to feed the family. He's struggles to pay the gasoline in the car. The social contract here is a lot better, right? People seem to get along better here
Yeah.
than they do in America. Now, in the bigger cities here, it's screwed up, right?
Okay.
It's just as bad as New York or Philadelphia. There's same old crap in all these big cities, mainly London, Birmingham, Manchester, places like that. But those are the types of organizations that are in those cities that make it bad are very, very old organizations. They've been there for hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
Because the civilization here on this island has been here for tens of thousands of years as a civilization.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of learned how to get along. Whereas in America, they can only claim 400, 500 years that they've even been there as a community or
Yeah.
as a nation.
So, as we're doing the show, you should have YouTube up, and then I want to play some stuff from X, but you won't be able to see it on OBS.
I got your YouTube open right now.
Okay, so you gotta mute your mic. Okay, so so I just want to point out to people that we're now getting UK and Canadian style censorship and severe penalty for criticizing politicians in California. Gavin Newsom has passed a law. You can go to jail now, folks, if you repost this video and you're a resident of California.
He has no plan to replace it. He said, concepts of a plan. Oh, you all watched the debate. He has no plan to replace it.
Now, I'm not saying that that's really clever political satire or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, why would that be getting you arrested? You know what I mean? And, yeah, why would that getting... I really do think that there is something going on here that, This is a turning point for the world. This election. I mean, when you get people like Klaus Schwab and Yuval Harari saying that if Trump gets in again, it's the end of globalization, right? By the way, what they're tacitly saying when they say that is they've been forcing globalization. One man in one country can't stop globalization. If the world wanted it, it would happen whether Trump liked it or not. But
Right.
but what he's saying is they're able to handle, manage, and suppress all nationalist tendencies in every country other than the United States. But if the United States ignites nationalism again, it's going to set up a chain reaction that bolsters countries like Hungary and Poland and Britain and other countries, right? And Canada too. So this is it. I mean, this is the vote for globalization or nationalism. Now, in my worldview, it doesn't end there. But this is the first step in getting to a better world. Then after that, we have to deal with the other form of globalization that is on the table, which is Jewish globalization, which is rule from Jerusalem and Noahide law for Gentiles. And that's a real thing. Like, people think I'm crazy for continuing to bring this up. But if you look closely, it's happening, and nobody's noticing it. And it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, right? And if Trump gets in, the one thing he will do in this next term is make sure that deal is struck to get the Alaska Mosque torn down and to get the Temple of Solomon built. Okay? And it has to happen for the psychological stability of all the people locked into these Abrahamic religions and mind controlled by them, right?
Yeah.
They have to, they have to see it. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you about building the mosque or tearing down the mosque and building the third temple. 'Cause I think you said once, so let's see it. If you want to do it, let's see it happen, and let's see if your miracle occurs, right? Whereas, I don't really think anything would happen. I think they would build this building.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think it's a big nothing too. I think it's
Right.
it's just a big nothing. But people need to see it for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And say, oh my God, myself and my ancestors invested so much intentional energy into this nonsense, it isn't funny. Of course there's no
Right.
Messiah coming. There's no Antichrist. It's all just a bunch of horse shit. Okay? It's just, just a bunch of absolute nonsense, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. And
Yeah.
this is where people are at, Chris. They're no smarter than this. They're it just, yeah.
Religion, when religion became the power, and what the Vatican owns how much of a percentage of the world's land, and how much wealth does the Vatican have? It's
I don't know,
the richest,
Well,
the richest organization on earth.
I don't know if they're number one. I think they're in the top 5. People would be surprised. I think I saw the list about 5 or 6 years ago. Now,
One second. Keep talking.
what the hell's going on with
I'll
you?
be right back.
Bladder problem?
Just keep talking. I'll be right back.
Irritable bowel syndrome? Like, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm an old man, 65.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. But, yeah. So, anyways, I don't really have anything important. I was just getting my legs back on YouTube tonight, folks. But I know that a lot of you have maybe followed me over to Rumble for the last 2 weeks. Thank you very much. The watch numbers on those videos are pretty good, for a guy who's not really sensationalizing anything. And I'm getting to know a lot of you now, off air. Like I've met quite a few people, I'd like to say, hello to Lynn and hello to Susan. Hello to Anna Marie in Memphis. I'm meeting a lot of my listeners now. I talk to them. They find me on Discord or Facebook or something, and it's very interesting to hear from people, Chris, and to
This part of my mental health, my self-discipline, when it comes down to my mental health, it's being connected into people and having adult conversations about adult things and spreading. I think we kind of naturally will come together as a community. It's like the power, the old power of attraction thing, right? Where if you put out good vibes will come your way. I believe a lot in that type of stuff. That whenever there's a possibility of something good happening, if you put your intention into it happening, it most often will happen, right? Now, I didn't plan any of my life at all. All I did was grab a hold of a few lifelines as I was thrown out of the raft into the river, and I I took it easy. I didn't fight. I didn't get upset. I relaxed, and then there were people throwing ropes over the river, and I grabbed hold of one of them, and they pulled me ashore and saved my life.
Yeah.
That's how my life is, and it's changed like 3 or 4 different times. I've had like 3 or 4 different timelines in the same life, and it's just. But each time it gets more enlightened. I'm able to understand and see more. Right. I can feel more. Right. I actually can feel people. It's weird, but I
So
can.
I got a question here on chat that I want to address, and you're the perfect person to address it with, Chris. Okay, so it's from Mike Matthews. Bruce, will you go into the microcosm issue? Really enjoyed your input on Jimmy's show. Well, in a nutshell, Mike, it was just time to leave. Okay, there's nothing intelligent happening on that show anymore. They're mailing it in every Friday, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, to do good shows, you have to put a lot of energy into it. I have the time up here because the business I run on the side, which is a grant writing business, only takes up about 35% of my time, my Monday to Friday. And then I have a lot of time to think, to research, and to do shows. Jimmy went back to work full time, and when he was doing his really good stuff, I don't know how he was making his living, whether he was living on savings or what, but he was 100% doing podcasting. Kev Baker was alive, and there was a lot of good things happening on that show. But now it's just Trump derangement syndrome, and you can't even discuss it. That's what drives me crazy because, and it's exactly what CERN. How do you say the guy's name from the Young Turks? CERN Janik or Junik or whatever the fuck guy.
So John,
Yeah, they just they give you this attitude like, dude, please don't even embarrass us by bringing this up. And I mean, you've got a failing food supply. You've got a southern border being invaded. You've got open racist policing policy towards self-defense of one ethnic group that is being provoked to be attacked by other ethnic groups. You have a collapsing economy. You have out-of-control spending that even the most liberal of economists will tell you simply can't work if your goal is to maintain a capital system and not bankrupt the country, and you're telling me Trump's the problem. Well, rather than just say that and it's too stupid to discuss, why don't we just have the discussion? And then, and they're all gone now. Billy Ray Valentine, John Brisson, Jimmy, the only one who I think doesn't agree with them but keeps quiet about is Rio. But Epic is the ringleader, and I don't know. There's something about Epic. I'll be honest. Now that I can speak freely, I've always had a bad vibe about Epic. Always. Okay. He's some kind of spook. He's on somebody's leash. And when I say that, I don't mean he's getting envelopes, he's working for someone. But he exists in a culture so entrenched in a certain ideology that he doesn't have the courage to step out of it and get caught speaking against it publicly. And has probably been profoundly influenced by it. But the only logical counterpoint to the Trump presidency that I accept as legitimate is, well, hold on a sec, Bruce. He's really tied in with some pretty nutty Jewish sects like Chabad Lubavitch, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. I'll be the first to admit that, but then I've thought it through. First we got to deal with the communists, and then after that we deal with the whole Jerusalem thing, okay? But it's got to be done in sequence because the communists want to kill you today. The Jewish supremacists want to kill you tomorrow. So you got to fight the battle you're in today. Don't fight tomorrow's battle today. And I could never get this idea across to these guys. And you guys, we used to talk, we would talk more about this. I used to say this off air, like, guys, like, this show is going into the shitter. Like, and, when I first started going on that show, we would stay on air for 20, 30 minutes after the show and just talk amongst ourselves. Now I just hang up and leave. And I didn't even want to go back. Jimmy just kept begging me. I'd start getting the Skype messages at like 7:30 at night on Friday. Hey, can you please come on tonight? I'm shorthanded. I can't find Epic. And then 10 o'clock my time shows up. And sure enough, Epic's there. But in the end, what really turned me off was the sort of unfounded smugness of it. And it really culminated in the last show with Billy Ray Valentine. Oh, yeah. I said, well, I mean, even RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard have gone over to Trump. And Billy Ray comes back with, well, the very fact that you would say that out loud tells me exactly who you are. And I'm going, and this is the problem with Into the Microcosm. Well, why don't you let the fucking audience in on what you're thinking? Rather than just make a glib comment like that,
Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying that RFK doesn't have his defects, and everybody in politics. What are they waiting for? Some sandaled dude to walk across water and say, "I'm going to lead you, America." I mean, you're always anybody who gets to public voice at a national stage in the American political arena is going to have. Is going to have skeletons in their closet. And I guarantee you, with RFK Jr., it's probably, I'll take a guess at what his is. It's a sex life from about 20 to 40 that would make Hugh Hefner blush. Right? Yep. And
he's a drug addict for a long time.
Yeah. He's got some skeletons in his closet, and Tulsi does as well. But, I mean, I hope, Mike, does that answer your question? Mike Matthews, if you want to just type in if that answers your question. Anybody else ask it? Hey, man, this is a really informal show tonight. I'm going to wrap it up. I usually only do an hour, but if anyone wants to call in and just tell me what you think of the show or anything, there's the number, 864-810-1039. You'll come right on air, or call or friend me on Skype at SeenThatTinker1, okay? All right, Mike, thanks. I'm glad I answered your question. I didn't Kamala Harris that question, did Mike? In America, we have a political process that is settled with politics. Into the Microcosm is an internet radio show that goes out on the radio that is hosted by a gentleman named Jimmy Jean. I'll Kamala Harris my answer for you, Mike. Yeah. So, yeah. But those guys are cooked. All their magic is gone. And, this is... but they're an incredible... They're poster boys for how anybody can be taken out now. And that's what they say about me. Oh, the Cambridge Analytics got to Bruce. His thinking is compromised. Yeah,
compromised.
The Cambridge Analytics algorithms got into my brain, and the mimetic warfare has made a sponge out of. It's
well, when I heard Billy Ray deny about the issues with the migrants in New York City, that just blew my mind, because it's common knowledge, right, in New York right now that the migrants are tearing New York apart.
And all you got to do is look at Europe and go, okay, that's the plan for us, right? I mean, yes. It just takes stitching a few things together, and you realize, hey, this isn't good, okay?
Right. You can go to the WEF website, and you can see it right there on their own website what they plan on doing. And forced migration, economic migration, things like that, that's part of the plan. And it's if you listen to Kamala Harris when she starts talking about equity and equality, right? That's where her magic word turd stuff starts, is that we need to make things better than they are, so we need to actually tear them up first. And just to build back better, you have to destroy everything, and they're doing that, and right in front of us. And what boggles my mind is that the average white American hero type has not raised his fists in the air and hit the streets like they would over here in Europe.
Okay, man.
You know,
If I was in America now, and I was 50 years or younger, or 45 and younger, and I'm 58 now, but if I were 50 years old or younger, I would be buying 40 or 50 acres of land with 20 or 30 other people. I would be putting up windmills. I would be buying land that was unregulated by a building code, and I would be building my own community to like the Amish, but without all the crazy religious shit, and just setting up like that, and getting out of the system that way, and getting a community of people I could trust around me. That's what I would be doing if I were still there. I have friends doing that in Canada now, like one native friend I have, an Ojibwa, or a Mohawk actually. He started an intentional community way up north. And you can still, that's just the thing about North America, is we still have a lot of land. You know, if you look at this, if you look at the size of the United States, and applied the population density of India to the United States, there would be like 4 billion people in the United States.
right.
In India has 1.4 billion people, and it's maybe 1/7, 1/8 the size of the United States, right?
Yeah, they're stacked on each other over there.
Yeah.
You know, it's just amazing. You know, everybody over here, they always ask me, will you go back? And my answer is, I'll never go back. Why would I want to go back when I know half the people over there are deranged? And, you know, I tell them, if you plan on going, stay out of the big cities. Go to, you know, places up in Colorado, up in the mountains. Go to Montana, go to Wyoming.
Yeah.
You'll have a great time. Go fly fishing in the Rockies. Do something like that, you know. But don't go to the big cities. I had a friend here, had coffee with 2-3 days ago that just got back from New York City. And speaking of New York, and he said it was junk. He said it was horrible. He said it was unlike anything he'd ever seen, because when people used to picture New York City, they used to picture the number one place in the world, right?
Yeah.
When Real Rudy had it, and Trump was rebuilding all the buildings, and Rudy Giuliani and the New York PD were taking down all the trash off the streets. Now they talk about having to bring in the military or the National Guard to do that.
We got a caller there. Sorry, Chris, I think I lost you there. Caller, can you hear me? Can you folks on air hear the caller? I'm asking the folks on air if they can hear you. Can you do me a favor and just call back? I actually answered the call rather than brought you into the existing call. So let me wait about 30 seconds. Wait about 30 seconds, or wait for me to give you the sign on air, okay? 1 sec. Hey, Chris.
Do you imagine a town of 36...
Buddy, you've been off air for the last 30 seconds. Somebody called in, and I took the call rather than joined it into this call. Okay? Sorry, buddy. Okay, so caller, call back again, okay? And I'll answer it correctly this time. I don't have a producer. I'm doing everything myself, you know, and I got butter on my fingers from some bread I baked this afternoon. So, like, the dog ate my homework. Yeah. So what were you saying? And the caller will call back in. Call back in, caller. I think it was area code 512, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I was just talking about
513. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking about how America America as a country, the way that the rest of the world looks at America
All right, we got
is
him.
dramatically changed
Oh, look at that!
forever, I think.
Okay, hold on there, Chris. Chris, we have a live caller calling into the Talent Maker Review. 513. Who are you? How are you? What do you got on your mind?
Hey, Bruce, this is Tim.
Hey,
And
Tim Moore.
hey, this is my first time. Yeah, Tim, I've not called you before,
Okay, first
but I've threatened
first
to.
time caller.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to just tell you that, man, I love listening to you, and I found you through Into the Microcosm. So I don't hate them too much, but I kind of agree that it's without you, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it got stale, and you know, like in Jimmy's defense, it's hard to work a 55-hour week, and he does a kind of manual labor. He's in his 60s. He's up at 5 o'clock every morning, and then he's got to do a show from 9 to midnight on Friday nights, right? So the work's just not going into it, and they're relying on their past glories, and just they're like DJs playing greatest hits of the 80s or something, right? But but we live in such interesting times that why would not internet radio be focusing on exactly what's happening now? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, I think it just the thought. My thought is all the thought is it seems to lead you into a ditch.
Yeah.
When you know so much, when you know enough or just enough to be dangerous, it leads you into a ditch of feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
Completely hopeless.
Yeah.
Like there's just nothing you can do.
Oh.
And I had to get rid of that.
Oh.
I had to get rid of that thought.
Jimmy can go so dark on some Friday nights. I'm sure suicide hotlines are ringing after the show. You know, and it's just so dark. You know, like it's all over, folks. You're all gonna be spit roasted by big gay black men from Venezuela and sucking cock behind the gas station. You know,
How do you say Bubba in Spanish?
Bubba. Tim, where are you? Where's 513?
Cincinnati.
Oh, Ohio.
Yeah.
How far are you from Springfield?
Yeah. Oh, not just about 50 miles.
Do you know Johnny
So,
Fever?
I haven't. Who?
Johnny Fever, the DJ at WKRP?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
One of the best shows of the 80s, right?
We're
Well,
dating
Bruce,
myself there.
I didn't grow up here. I'm not originally from Cincinnati. I'm actually from California.
Oh, okay.
I'm from the area where I've called into the microcosm a couple of times to Jimmy because I have a California history.
Yeah.
You know, and we've had some talks about when I worked at a nightclub in LA.
Yeah.
I don't know if you happen to be on those calls or not, but anyway.
Do not recall.
So it was, yeah. But yeah, Cincinnati is not far from Springfield. And I would say in Cincinnati itself, there's a lot of Haitians that I noticed
Yeah.
recently in the last couple months in parts of town where I work and places that I go. And I've seen a whole lot of them too. I mean, it's completely, it's true. I mean, all the stuff that they say is not a lie.
I mean, let's be honest. It is a very odd ethnicity to flood a town with. I mean, if you got 20,000 Hungarians, your restaurant scene would boom overnight. Your construction scene would boom overnight. Construction rates would go down. You'd have classical masonry work. You'd be getting masonry work done on the front of your houses for like $5 an hour, you know. But why Haitians? What value do they add to that community? You know, and why?
I don't know.
And and anybody saying this is humanitarian is lying. How could this possibly be humanitarian?
No.
It's again.
They must be getting paid. They're getting paid. Somebody's getting paid to do this.
Paid, and the ultimate insult, paid with your money, right?
Well, yeah.
From the treasury your parents and your grandparents built up. Go ahead, Chris.
said it's the Jewish and the Catholic family organizations,
Yeah.
the NGOs that are in cooperation with the United States government, and there's less border crossings now because they're flying them in
Yeah.
on jet airliners into deep America, letting them loose, at the train stations, maybe giving them an address to go to where they might have a hotel room. They'll get a debit card and a phone, and they'll get some other credentials. They're also going to be able to be given a temporary Social Security number.
Yeah.
And this is what's interesting. In some states, all you need is that last 4 digits of your Social Security number to prove identification. And that's a big problem.
vote.
But, Harris has been talking about making it all these illegal citizens legal citizens, making them American citizens just for the fact that they're here now.
Yeah.
Right. And
Well, it's cheap labor. It's cheap labor too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's cheap labor.
yeah.
I would think it's cheap labor that they're getting because, from what I heard, over in there's a Tyson chicken factory here, not far from where I work, and they replaced all the regular people that were working there with somebody else that was way cheaper, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazon them.
Yeah.
And while they sit in their secured locations and with guarded gates behind closed walls, and these migrant dudes or families and everything else, they're living in these hotels, there's American citizens sleeping on the sidewalks next to these hotels, right? Thousands upon tens of thousands of people are on the streets of America now, and they're struggling the best way they know how. A lot of them are falling into the drug addiction, the fentanyl, chemical warfare that's being conducted by China on the American citizens and the Canadian citizens as well. All you have to do is open your eyes and look around and see, and then listen.
Yeah.
But listen differently. If you have questions, ask questions, find out answers, do your own research instead of sitting there and just listening to the news for 20 minutes a day and then going on with your day.
Yeah.
You're missing the point. They're going to steal the entire country from the American people
Yeah.
if we just sit on our butts and don't do nothing, right?
Yep.
And the reason the reason the U.S. Constitution has a Second Amendment in it is so just for the fact that they allow the American citizens to rise up against the government if the government is found to be tyrannical,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's why you have a right to own a gun. It's not that you go shoot deer. It's that you can rise up as a militia against the actual government that's become this deformed whatever, communism, socialism, you name it. And remember, it's Kamala Harris. She's, her father or grandfather was a high-level Marxist teacher at a university, right?
Yeah.
Marxism.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
a lot of her stuff is Marx. I can't pronounce it.
Marxist.
Her philosophy and her belief systems comes from those types of values.
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Tim, anything else on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to praise you for The Devil in This. I read it, I loved it, and I'm actually gonna have my girlfriend read it next.
What are we
She's
talking?
very
What are we?
into you also.
What are we talking about? Which
That-
book?
The Devil in Us.
Oh, thanks very
The
much.
Devil in
I
Us.
love it when people like that book. It kind of burns my ass a bit that Stardust Ranch just will not stop selling, man. And I mean, I'm not a UFO guy. I mean, I nailed the topic because I'm a good journalist, multidimensional journalist. But of the books, all the books I've written, my favorite is The Devil in Us because it's my story. It was very cathartic, very healing for me. But thank you very much. I mean, there's a lot of topics I could have gone into deeper. I mean, any one of those chapters in the middle of the book could have been its own book. But what I wanted to do was just give people a picture and say, okay, look, add all this stuff together and realize that we've done this in like 144 years from the American Enlightenment in 1880, to now. And look at how much the world has changed. And you tell me this could happen randomly. It's not a plan. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you for buying the book. Thank you for reading the book, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I wanted to. Can I just tell you my favorite part of it real quick?
Oh, dude, you don't even have to be quick when you're talking about my book. We'll stay another 30 minutes if you want to talk. I love hearing about that book.
So my favorite part of the book is when you guys are about to cook a pig,
Yeah.
and you had one of the villagers' boys there,
Yeah.
and you were going to have him do it, and he just couldn't do it. And the thing that you told him, it just struck me really hard. That
Yeah.
You told him to, I guess, honor the heart that God gave him.
Yeah.
That totally made so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel that I really identify with that.
Yeah, that little bastard's about 17 now and could easily kill a pig now, but he couldn't do it at 12. I've been here like 10 years, right? And I've grown up with so many kids here. In this part of the world, unlike North America, I'm surrounded by kids. I got to tell my wife 3-4 times a week, honey, I work at home. I do complex grant writing for technology. I need to concentrate. I can't have 5 kids under 10 screaming here all the time. And but really, you love it. You love it. But he's a great little guy. He's grown up pretty well. He's huge now. He's about 230 pounds. He's one of the bigger Costa Ricans I know. But I remember that day so clearly, man. And because it was all planned. It's like his dad called me like 6 weeks ahead of that planned kill. He said, the next time you kill a pig, my son wants to come up and kill it. I said, okay. I put the knife in his hand. His whole body started to tremble. His eyes watered up. And I said, look, man, it's no small thing to kill something, even a pig. You got this heart. Your heart's telling you the truth. I didn't give him any big speech on becoming a vegetarian or anything. I should have maybe, but I think if you can't kill an animal, you shouldn't eat meat. Really, if I did to that 12-year-old, to everybody who eats meat, if I handed them the knife, 90% of the world would be vegetarian, man, because there's no way they could do it.
Absolutely,
there's no way they could do it.
I couldn't. I couldn't. I don't think I could do it either.
I
killed about how hungry I suppose if I was without food.
Yeah,
forever.
I killed about a dozen. I got so good at it, they called me the Matador up here, which means killer. Mata means kill. Yeah, the Matador, Bruce right. The Matador. And I mean, I could get that knife in so quickly and so smoothly. The pig's suffering was over in 2 to 3 seconds. Sledgehammer, knife, over. Right? Which is what you want. You don't want the animal to suffer, right? But after a dozen pigs, I looked at my wife one day. I said, I'm going back to vegetarianism. This is horse shit. I'm not killing any more pigs, man. Right? My wife can kill 25 chickens in a day. When I was writing that book there, The Light of Darkness, with Bob, he goes into blood magic from the perspective of Paolo Mayombe and how they use chickens and everything. And I'm going, holy shit, Bob. What if I have a big fight with my wife and she kills 25 chickens in one day? Like, what? He's going, no, it doesn't work that way, Bruce. I'm going, like, I could just imagine my wife just grabbing because we raise them in groups of 50, right? We buy the little chicks for about 80 cents a piece. We buy chicken feed, and you can get them up to 2 kilograms. I'll speak American for you. You can get them up to about 4.4 pounds in 7 weeks. But then you got to kill them all. And the ones and we don't have a big enough freezer. So we sell about 2/3 of them, and the rest my wife and her family would eat, right? So my wife would be killing like 25 chickens in a day, just one after the other. Boom. Wow. She's farm raised, right? And, but yeah, thank you very much for reading the book, and thank you for that comment about, his name is Daylan, by the way. Yeah. So...
Well, that was the one that stuck out. I mean, there's so many good parts of the book. I mean, Bruce, I was really enthralled with that book.
Oh, thank you very much.
So I'm going to be reading I'll be reading more of your books.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I said, you were the only voice that really stood out to me, on that show. And so I started following you immediately as soon as I could find you.
Oh,
You know,
thank you very
so
much. Thank you very much.
I'm behind you, man.
All right, all the best, man. Thanks for.
You speak a lot of truth. You speak it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of the time.
All right. Thank you.
All right, call in anytime, Tim. Bye, Tim.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get anyone else before
Thanks.
we wind it up here, Chris. It's we're on an hour and 19
Sure.
minutes now, so my sound system's working completely. Santo, why don't you call in on camera and I'll see if I can bring you in a three-way camera thing here. All right, but
Hey, I wanted to tell everybody when it comes down to the Intermicrocosm and the two websites that they were running, I was the webmaster behind those two. What I did is I downloaded the website files and gave them to Rio and told them that I would help them out as much as I could for them to get them back up. And so I've done my part and I felt good about it, but I can't serve two masters, right? And it was a personal thing for me, had a lot to do with my past and having to watch something. I mean, I like Jimmy. He's a really good music dude. He knows so much about music. It's incredible. But on a personal level, there were things going on that I couldn't accept. And that's just the way it is. I had to draw a line in the sand.
oh, let's not beat the
I just
let's
want-
not beat
I
this
just want to get that out
let's not beat this mule to death, Chris. Anybody else?
done with that,
864-810-1039 or seen that Tinker one? We'll give you 30 more seconds and then we'll call it a show. But this has been a great reemergence onto YouTube. I got to follow their rules, folks. Okay, so I mean, if I have something really caustic to say, I'll go over to Rumble. Okay, but at a technological level, YouTube is just really easy to use, and it syncs up with OBS perfectly. So you can configure YouTube and OBS. You can sign into your YouTube account through OBS, and you don't have to set up any key or stream for every show. It's just open up, schedule the stream, boom, just like that. It's really pretty good. So I guess that's it. Nobody's going to call in, Chris. So
Okay,
we'll
Bruce.
stop it there for
Well,
tonight.
thanks for being there, buddy.
Yeah, night, buddy. We'll let Chris go. There he goes. And I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review for Wednesday, September 18th. And we'll see you folks again tomorrow night.